Now, a UK daily, Financial Times, has reported that secret talks were reportedly held between Indian External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and his counterpart Melanie Joly on the sidelines of the UNGA in New York. The newspaper has also reported that many of the 41 Canadian diplomats who were asked by India to leave the premises are still holding ground. Meanwhile, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, is going all around town, from US to UK to UAE and now Jordan, in a desperate bid for attention. None have responded to him is another matter. India is nonchalant. It has ignored these tactics by Trudeau and it has refused to stoop down to the level Trudeau is wanting to reduce this spat to. He has become a joke internationally and at home, and this is his last-ditch effort to gain favour. But the question is, who is listening? In fact, Trudeau has become quite the joke, as I mentioned, in his country itself as well as internationally. In fact, some of the examples that I would like to reflect to you of the trolls that have been attacking Trudeau online and offline is something that is amusing. It obviously is reflective of how the world views Justin Trudeau at this point of time. In fact, some of these trolls that are playing on your screens are what I'm going to quickly read out. In fact, there is one of these trolls who has gone about. Now, this is a fake account of Justin Trudeau, of course, on social media, on Twitter, on X, which it is now called, and this is. All right, so one of the tweets says, earlier today I had a pleasant conversation with Souron, Chief Lieutenant of the 1st Dark Lord Morgoth. I familiarized him with my government's actions against short truckers and hairy feet. My staff tells me they are also hobbits. Obviously, a comparison being made in a situation from the Lord of the Rings and Justin Trudeau playing the Joker. Again, a conversation, an imagined conversation that would have been held by Justin Trudeau when he called up the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. He says, earlier today I had a stimulating conversation with Prime Minister Rishi. I reminded him of my love for his exotic culture and informed him of my plans to make Bhangra mandatory in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. He affectionately calls me Pakoda, although his exotic dialect, it sounded like, okay, I will have to restrain myself from speaking that word. It is an expletive that is used in India, particularly in the northern part of the country. There's another of these trolls who has again, as Justin Trudeau said, that I had a heart-to-heart conversation with Xi Jinping. I told him I love eating gobi Manchurian. The General Secretary Xi praised the resolve shown by my government to suppress dissent, promised to send up another dozen police stations in our cities. Again, earlier today I spoke with Padishah Emperor Saddam after the critical importance my government attaches to the supply chain from Iraqis. And these trolls actually go on and basically what I'm trying to convey to my audience and my panelists over here is amply proven. The fact that my hashtag says Trudeau is a joke, and that's exactly what we're going to discuss at this point of time. My colleague over here, Joa Basu, who joins me on the telecast. Joa, it's interesting to see that there are no reports, no information that is provided by the Government of India, by the Ministry of External Affairs with regards to this reported meeting that has taken place between S. Jaishankar, our External Affairs Minister, and his Canadian counterpart, Melanie Joly. Now, do you think, why is it that there is foreign media, and particularly Western media, that is coming out with these reports, which are obviously, it's very easy to note that this piece of information or intelligence is being leaked by the Trudeau government, by Canada, to put out this information.
So yes, obviously, I mean, given the, he has not been able to present anything except so-called oral evidence, according to another Financial Times article that we have read, that Trudeau has apparently given the Indian government some kind of an oral evidence. So apart from that, in the public domain, we have nothing. Okay, given that all that it can do is that, and obviously it is not in a position to reveal even that kind of oral intelligence or evidence that he has got. That is the reason why he has come down to planting stories in, what shall I say, pliable media. And right now one of their pliable newspapers is this particular FT, Financial Times, and this is the one that is getting all sorts of news from Trudeau. Fine, let him plant it, but this whole act of talking to Jordan, talking to UAE, and saying that, okay, see, India must follow the rule of law. I mean, does Trudeau seriously believe that countries like Jordan has the heft to put any pressure on India? Has he lost his mind? He is talking to UAE. Does he even understand how thick India and the UAE are? How close, I mean, actual close friends India and UAE are. So what exactly is he trying to do? Reshape the relationship between the two countries. I mean, in which world does he live? Doesn't even he understand the basics of geopolitics? Doesn't he understand what interpersonal relationships between leaders are and the relationship between countries are? So he doesn't understand
he doesn't understand it. And of course, he is seeking attention. He is not getting any. Unfortunate for him, he and his advisors at home would be very anxious, upset, and it must be frustrating for them that there has been a war that has broken out in Israel against Hamas, and all the attention of the world media, and understandingly so, is focused at this point of time the Middle Eastern country. Now, Ambassador Mahesh Sachdeva, the point that I am trying to raise is that Trudeau has the goal to reach out to UAE, to Jordan, in a situation where there is a war brewing out in their neighborhood. Jordan is aligned right at the border with Israel in the southern part of Israel. So, what is it that Trudeau is wanting to achieve out of it?
Thank you. I'm happy to be with you and try and sort of make some method in that madness. Look, to be charitable to him, he would have called Jordanian king or UAE president ostensibly for discussing the Hamas versus Israel conflict. Now, in the passing, he would have talked about his spat with India and rule-based order, etc., etc. Now, how did it link up with the Hamas versus Israel conflict? Your guess is as good as mine. But the readout given by the Canadian side seem to indicate, without naming India, these kind of things. Now, this readout is, in my mind, meant for domestic consumption in Canada, where there is a battle royal going on between New Democratic Party, headed by Gurmeet Singh, who is supporting Trudeau at the moment, and Trudeau's party itself. Trudeau, in the next election due in 2025, doesn't want to depend on NDP. He wants to have a majority on its own, and to that end, he is trying to out Khalistan, the pro-Khalistan NDP, and hence perhaps his intention to keep the issue burning domestically, and as he sees it, earn some brownie points from the Khalistani protagonists.
Okay.
That's my take.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Important point made, and a very logical one. Gautam Mukherjee, like the ambassador said, this whole tamasha that Trudeau is doing, going to all these countries, seeking their response, seeking their solidarity, is something for the domestic audience's consumption. He wants to be in the news, keep this Canada-India spat in be talking points by international and domestic media. Unfortunately, nobody is buying it.
I think he has been made a butt of jokes in his country, all around the world. He's trying to paper it over by appearing or championing the cause of rule-based order. He thinks that this is going to wash. He must be feeling pretty stupid every time he has to interact with anybody. He must have, as the ambassador pointed out, called these people in order to reiterate Canada's solidarity with Israel. And at the same time, he wants to draw perhaps a parallel between Hamas breaking the international rule-based order and India. Nobody's going to quite put them in the same bracket, and he is certainly, he has lost a great deal of credibility over the last many days, and without being able to rectify the situation, either with India or with his G7 allies or with his NATO allies or indeed with anyone. So he's in that kind of limbo, and whether he will survive all the way to 2025 remains to be seen.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He's in no position to really convince anybody about anything because his judgment seems deeply flawed.
Sumit, keeping in mind how India has tackled the situation in a very respectful manner, India has called out Trudeau, the government of Canada, as a safe haven for terrorists, and it is not going to budge when it comes to the cooperation that is needed by the Canadian government to target these terrorists and their organizations that have made settlements in Canada for decades together now. And it's decided to move away from this subject. It's decided until and unless Trudeau and his government are going to take action, there are going to be no talks whatsoever. And that's the high moral ground that has been taken by India. So again, what the picture is coming across in the international arena is as India having an upper hand in this entire crisis that has emerged from Trudeau's side.
Megha ji, thank you for having me on your show. I used to call Canada as the Pakistan of the West. Now they have picked one more skill and one more trait from Pakistan, because Pakistan is a perennial beggar for money, and Canadians have become perennial beggars for attention. So wherever Pakistan goes, whichever event you call them, yaar kuch to de do, yaar paisa to de do. So what is Jaishankar doing? He's exactly copying the Pakistan model because he's greatly inspired by them. So wherever he goes, whichever call he makes to any world, yaar wo India ne bahut mara, India ne isko mara. Now that is the dugdugi he is always trying to beat. He's always trying to beat around. He's trying to be sympathetic. He's trying to find at least 2-3 world leaders out of 200 plus countries at least who will say, okay, I think yes, India should do that. But unfortunately, all his attention is going in vain. So next time he's going to definitely dial aliens in Mars, Saturn, Jupiter and Pluto and trying to get their support. I mean, this talks of a leader who is very minimal on IQ. This talks of a leader who doesn't understand diplomacy. This talks of a leader who is not sensitive to the world affairs. This talks of a leader who is not there, who is misfit the government. If there is an Israeli-Hamas terror act going on, there is a terrorist attack by Hamas on Israel, which is the biggest in the history of Israel, you should be going and discussing that. And what is, how, what, where and when is going to Jordan influence India's decisions? Do you think Jordan has the power even to move a brick here with due respect to Jordan and Jordanese? No. So diplomatically, if Americans could not do it, Russians could not do it, China could not do it, for the sake of God, why do you think Jordan can do it? Why are you wasting your time? If you are so desperate, I have a better solution. Go on the top of Eiffel Tower and start shouting this. At least you will get better audience. because he's one-to-one talking to leaders and giving these selective leaks to media is only making you get more and more memes. I got one meme yesterday. The meme said that I just had a good conversation with Bajaj Finance and I'm going to finance my next Skoda Alto or something. So that is the kind of memes which are run around it. This is the height of disaster what Canadians can have as a Prime Minister. And God save the countries from such dynasts, because this is what dynasts can do to the country. And this man is not willing to stop. He's getting in a perennial mode of damaging the repute of Canada, bringing the stature of Canada down. And he's now a man with no demands. He will, even today, I won't be surprised, ma'am, one day he will call Hafiz Saeed and say, "Bhai, tum to mere se agree karoge na?" Or Lashkar-e-Toiba say, "At least you can agree with me." I don't understand. If there's a plumber in your country, why is a plumber on a no-fly list? A plumber on a no-fly list is eliminated by somebody. How does India become involved in it? What the hell has India got to do with it?
Yeah.
I mean, that is height of paranoia. That is height of frustration. If the topmost leader of a country is frustrated and is running like a headless chicken, I'm sorry, ma'am, the country is heading for trouble.
Okay.
It's good for Canada to get rid of this man as soon as possible.
Yeah, unfortunately, in terms of how elections take place and how democracy works in Canada, there is hardly any way to remove Justin Trudeau from governing the country up until 2025 election that takes place. But Joita, quickly coming to you now, what should the next step be? It's a standoff, but are we at this point of time in a situation that things have now become stagnant?
Well, the thing is, you see, as far as India is concerned, India has made its stand very clear. And the thing is, now it is up to Canada what it wants to do. It will have to, I mean, if you are serious about having normal relations with India, Justin Trudeau cannot do that. You cannot go around talking to countries and saying that, oh, look at what India did, even if it is implying or not by implication. The thing is that they will have to, if you are interested, talk to India. But the thing is that do not make unreasonable demands and do not present us with oral evidence. Give us something concrete that is justiciable and that is you can basically act on that. Give us that evidence. But I think Justin Trudeau is past that. For him, it was about scoring political brownie points with his own people, and that's what he has done exactly.
Okay, all right. Ambassador Sachdeva, then, is Canada and particularly the Justin Trudeau government that is backed by the terrorist Khalistani sympathizer Jagmeet Singh even thinking or having discussions of backing down? Because as per the sources, the information that I received from the Ministry of External Affairs just a short while ago, a couple of weeks ago, was Trudeau needs to, lie low at this point of time. Let the situation settle down. But Trudeau is just doing opposite of it when he's trying to rake up this discussion, going to Sunak and then going to the UAE president, UAE premier, and then going to Jordan. This is not the definition of lying low.
I think, ma'am, the law of diminishing return operates in such cases of diplomacy. Important thing is not what Justin Trudeau has been saying. He's expected. We have given up on him. But what the other side is saying, has UAE issued any readout saying, yes, this was discussed and we would like India to do this, or Jordanian king has condescended to agree with the Canadian interlocutor, or even Sunak has said anything that gives comfort to him. Secondly, I think if there's a leak to Financial Times about quote-unquote secret meeting between the two foreign ministers, it's a serious breach of trust. Now, firstly, there's act of omission. You do not give India the evidence and yet go bragging about it. Secondly, it's an act of commission. You have leaked an information about apparently a non-productive meeting between the two foreign ministers on the sidelines of the UNGA session, if at all that took place. Now, this compounds the comedy of errors.
Yeah.
And it's not going to serve Canadian purpose.
You're right.
If India gets further, throws its back up, giving instead of 10th of October, 20th of October, or 30th of October for the diplomats to relocate, doesn't mean that they are digging in.
Yeah.
You can't get into a foreign country as a diplomat unless you are accredited. Simple. Your visa is diplomatic visa is withdrawn, or your diplomatic identity card is gone. Your CD number plate is gone. Then, how can you dig in?
Yeah. Agreed.
Is it like France and Niger, where Niger declared their ambassador persona non grata, and ex-colonial power insisted that the ambassador should hang on?
Yeah.
Would not withdraw. After 2 months, French have withdrawn their ambassador.
Yeah, they were forced to do that. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I see no particular logic in what is happening in terms of sheer diplomatic acumen.
Absolutely. Gautam, now what Canada has been trying to do is paint India in a bad light. So when there is a news pouring in, that too from Financial Times, it's a British daily saying that there are 41 of these diplomats that India is demanding to be removed from its soil. Again, a news that came from the West. Again, this piece of information that came from Financial Times. Now, at the UNGA sidelines, there was also information of the Canadian ambassador to the United Nations saying, going about making news at how he ended up meeting the Indian permanent representative to United Nations. No such information, no such communication came forth from India's side, from the Ministry of External Affairs over here. And now Trudeau and his government are putting out this information saying that his Canadian Minister of External Affairs has met Jaishankar. Also information about how the 41 diplomats, at least quite a few of them, are still at this point of time holding ground over here in India. Again, desperately wanting to paint India in a bad light, saying, we are making all the efforts, India is snubbing us.
The has been reported to have been reassigned to Singapore and Malaysia. Now, nobody's told us whether Singapore and Malaysia are happy to receive them. For people who have overstayed their welcome by 10 or 20 days, in fact, less than 20 days as of now, what can you say? I mean, they've been told to leave, they've agreed to leave, they've said where they're going, and now it's a matter of packing your bags and leaving. Or in any case, they are not accredited diplomats as of the 10th of October. That's one. Two is, if you run into people in corridors and call it a meeting, or you meet them at the toilets and you call it a meeting, what can anybody else do? This is the kind of thing that Canada is going out and dining on. It is as if it has something to say, and as if India is not listening to them. They have nothing to say, and we would very dearly like to listen to something of substance, but they have not been able to produce any.
Yeah.
This is making matters much worse for themselves, and I think it could affect relations between India and Canada in a more substantial manner unless they mend their ways.
Okay.
They have to start extraditing criminals from India. They have to start listening to what we have to say. And if they don't, the relationship cannot be normalized. Nobody else feels the moral right is with them. So how on earth are they proceeding in this line of behavior without any traction?
Yeah. Okay. Sumit, quickly, a closing comment from you. Again, you mentioned about how Canada and Justin Trudeau is taking lessons from Pakistan. Again, the long-tried method by Pakistan, talking always about holding dialogue, holding talks with India, having these discussions, meeting up, but at the same time sending its terrorists along our borders in Kashmir. Something similar where our ambassadors and our external affairs ministers are being, if I could use this harsh term, accosted by the Canadian leaders and Canadian ministers, and claiming them to be discussions, fruitful discussions that have been held by both countries.
Ma'am, I had a discussion with Trudeau in my dreams yesterday, and I was just now talking to Joe Biden. So I can claim anything on this earth, but the other side has to also claim. That's point number one. It is exactly right, Meghaji. They have been copying Pakistan. What is Pakistan? Harbor terrorism, fight for terrorists, keep terrorists as the state assets, and go and cry, become the crybaby in front of everybody in the world. Look what India is doing, look what India is doing, we want Kashmir, we want Kashmir. It's exactly the same modus operandi. Whoever you pass by, what Gautamji rightly said, you meet somebody in the toilet, you meet somebody in the lobby, and you start discussing. For Pakistan, it's Kashmir, and for the Canada, it is how a plumber on a no-fly list was killed by Indians. I mean, this is height of absurdity. Can you expect a prime minister of an elected democracy to behave like this? It really shatters my imagination. He is the prince of the lost paradise. He is the white rabbit of the Alice in Wonderland, who's perpetually getting late for the party and who never knows where the party is, but he keeps on looking at his watch and saying, I'm getting late for the party. He doesn't even know where the party, he doesn't even know what he's fighting for, but he is in such a desperate situation. I am telling you, he can even dial Lashkar-e-Toiba or Jaishankar or these Hamas guys. At least if you can give me an air and some newspaper can publish a small piece. He's as desperate as that. He has failed as a leader and he has failed Canada as a country, which is unfortunate.
Okay, Joyita, quickly, 30 seconds.
Yeah, my point is that you see, Mr. Trudeau is finally realizing that India is a major power, that he thought India is a small-time country which he can bully. But actually, as it turns out, it is his irrelevance that is, staring at everyone's face right now. And perhaps he's finding it difficult. But the thing is, you see, he cannot push around India, not any longer, not ever for that matter. And the thing is that, you see, let him stew in his own irrelevance.
Okay, all right. On that note, I thank all of my panelists for joining me on the telecast.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.